Hey everyone, I'm here to give you a closer look at the latest LEGO Marvel Avengers Helicarrier. This set has a number of key advantages over previous Helicarrier efforts from LEGO. For instance, unlike the first one that had Helicarrier in the name, this is a whole Helicarrier. And unlike the last one, this is a minifig focused set, and it doesn't cost $350. In addition to the Helicarrier itself, which we're going to spend most of the time looking at, this comes with a nice assortment of figures, a flyer thing that is definitely not a Quinjet, and this thick-brained boy called MODOK. As we take an overall look at this Helicarrier, notice there is a minifigure on the rear deck, just for the sake of scale. So this has the 4 fans, it's got some fins off to the sides, it has the bridge, which is in the nose. This is not the bridge back here, don't worry about that, this is where people go. You've got some windows up there as well, and you can put figures in there. We'll take a closer look at the interior. This has quite a lot of Technic mechanism built into it, a lot of gearing and things, and you can see some of those gears through some of the open ports. This is actually intended to be a huge jail cell in the back. We'll see how that works. The fans do stick up a bit from the surface. And I guess one last important kind of overall thing to mention is that this will not float. It is modeled after an aircraft carrier, but it's not designed to actually float in this case. It's designed to just go on the ground. And in fact, on the ground, check that out. All the fans move together. That's why there's so much Technic stuff inside, which in fact blocks much of the space, the bulk of this fairly large thing, from being even used by us. See, the minifig accessible area is just right up here where you can see the windows. All this in here is all mechanism, and then you just have this section back here that's used as a large jail cell. And as you look at this from the underside, you can see some of the reason for that. So these are just casters. So they're nice smooth pieces that roll very easily, very hard plastic, so you can make the thing turn. This is the cheater wheel that gives you some friction, some traction with the ground, and operates the entire drive train to make all of the fans turn together. It works really well, just uses up a lot of space. Up front on each side we have a single ball turret that can be aimed all around, and that's intended to be like a large artillery piece. Like I said, the bridge is at the front, and it uses a couple of wide upside down windscreen pieces to good effect. Access to the interior is via this hatch up top, and if I'm honest, there's not enough room for us to get our fingers in there. Yes, smaller hands can place minifigures into those 3 seats that you're looking at, but yeah, it's not very generous, and there's no way to like slide out that interior bit as its own little subassembly, which would have been a nice cheat. Up front, they have a projected display, which is really nice, as a clear-backed sticker applied directly to the inside of one of the windscreens, and that's about it for nice interior detail. See, as you look from the top through this entire middle section, that's all unusable space because of the mechanism and stuff to hold it, and also Technic build to give this extra strength and all. On deck, there's a point defense anti-air cannon that can be rotated around and angled up and down. You can see this is a new system, a new projectile system. Like they needed another one? I don't know about that. This is a replacement for the Technic competition cannon system that's been around forever. Now, I mean, that one just worked so well. It's sad to see it go, but this is a worthy successor, I can say. This one is more designed to work with system parts, with a brick-based design for the whole thing. There's a button on the back. You can see it can still be, the whole thing can still be connected to Technic stuff, including the trigger there, but this works very, very well. The spring system is all fully enclosed, and it fires its projectile, which is also a new one. Nice, straight and true, and with consistency. This is dual molded with the rubber tip, so yeah, I'm happy with this. It works just fine. At the rear, where perhaps a seafaring ship would have its bridge, well, this is a bit of a superstructure that doesn't have anything to it other than this movable, slightly movable radar bar up here, or detector, or shield generator. I don't know what exactly that's supposed to be. Probably something fancier than simple radar. At the back is the huge jail cell. It's huge because it needs to fit MODOK, who is huge himself. So that's a spot for him, and you can see plenty of the mechanism inside for the fan workings. But, there's enough room to put a bunch of minifigures in here, or a single MODOK with his mobility scooter. This single seat flying thing, I don't know if it represents anything in particular from the official Marvel universe. I don't know if it matters that much. If you recognize it, feel free to check the comments to see if anyone else has already talked about that. You can change the angles of the wings, so you can make them flat like this. You can bring them down. I think the thing looks kind of cute. It's like a little space pod, Single engine on the back. Maybe these are intended to represent repulsors or downward-facing engines for the sake of vertical takeoff and landing. And, you've got the 6-stud shooter there, obviously, on the front. You just rotate that manually. Take the canopy off to put a person inside, and got a couple of stickers in there to represent consoles. I think it's fine. It's not the greatest looking thing, especially with the nose, but definitely not a Quinjet, right? This is designed to land right on the deck, right there. Just kind of slots into place. If you built a second one on your own, then you could probably rig up with just a couple extra pieces, a convenient way to put this on the back. But I think this helps to give even more context to the set on the whole, when you consider that the main thing about the Helicarrier is that it's supposed to be a mobile base and carrier, right? It's supposed to carry other things, other ships and planes and such. It has room to carry 1, 2 at the most, optional with some modification if you bring your own second one. Again, just context. Now here's MODOK with his mobility scooter, the Doomsday Chair. Important thing here is that the head is printed, and it is printed well. It is clear. The white is pretty darn white, and it looks pretty proper. However, the rest you build up. So it's kind of the best of both worlds with specialized stuff, printed or specialized molded stuff, and proper Lego building techniques. I personally like this thing. I mean, the character itself is a silly design in universe, but as a Legoification of it, it's pretty good here. You've got the little short arms that can be raised and lowered. In full purple, these represent his legs there, obviously. Stud shooters on the sides with some slightly built up projectiles. Those look nice. There's also a spare one of those that you build with the included pieces. A sticker up here on the front, a sticker down here as well. Unfortunately, this sticker sheet was another one of several that I've gotten recently that was not die cut deep enough. So in some spots, the adhesive didn't come off all the way with the sticker, which is very annoying when it happens. I'm not the only person to have that happen to me, that's for sure. Very annoying when it happens. And the only way to get around it, first you have to know that the problem is there, which usually involves pulling off a sticker and having a problem with it. Then you can come back with a knife and carefully cut all the edges, which is something you should not have to do. This MODOK, though, this is cool. I like the build. I like the size. It's good. I'm showing you these two figures here before we really get into the details of the minifigs, because I want you to see all the stuff that they come with. We're not going to see all that super up close, but this gives you more context for these. I think this is really cool when they do these stands and they use these blast and splat pieces. They're just in regular trans orange, except for the base dishes, which are trans neon reddish orange. Sometimes called trans neon red. Different people call it different things, but it's not the same as just plain orange. It's like a fluorescent color. But I like how they use all these things, and I think with the help of that little relatively recent 1x2 modified plate, is rounded and has the open studs, or rather hollow studs, allows you to attach more things. It just works out really well. These are fun just to see on display, and you can just imagine rocketing around with them. This War Machine is nice. I like this so much. Good prints, good reuse of the Speed Champions, printed little half-rounded tiles there. Usable and sensible use of the stud shooter up here as a launcher. At the multiple launch rocket bay over on the other side, using just the inverted stack of roller skates. I mean, that makes sense. This is a really good use of the newer Iron Man helmet as well. I'm not mad at that one bit, just with the black and that print and the particular shaping that they put on there. It just worked out so well. This is just so good. Some people may want to replace those gray pieces with black just for the sake of consistency. I would completely understand that. But I'm just so happy with this thing. Here's how he looks with most of the stuff removed, as well as a look at the print on the back of the torso, which unfortunately is just not visible most of the time, but it's pretty good. Has a little bit of suggestion of depth there or something. I'm happy with that. And underneath, you get two faces on the head. So this is the one with the heads-up display, the camera inside the helmet, looking at the reflection of the red heads-up display against the face, or looking through it, I guess. And then this is just more of a regular face. Marvel here comes with the Mohawk headgear, and that's done in two pieces, so you can leave the hair off if you want to use that potentially, and they probably will use that same piece for some other figures in the future, but that's just interesting, and it just uses a mini peg hole, like Friends accessories, bows and things would use. So I guess you could put a flower up on top if you want, or sunglasses or something. But I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good looking figure. I think the printing is done pretty well, and they do include in the set. So you see, that's dual molded. I think they could do that for Batman in the future now, huh? Rather than continuing on with the headband like they do. But there's one face, there's the other face. I think they could have had a little bit more contrast between those two with their expressions, but the printing looks pretty good. However, they also include the hairpiece. Thank goodness. Always happy when they do this. I want them to do it more. Every figure that makes sense to have hair exposed should have a hairpiece in addition to the helmet, if both are appropriate. This release season's version of Iron Man may not be everybody's favorite, but I think that for what it is, the figure is done pretty decently well. I still prefer the two-piece helmet, but as things go, this is not that bad. It does look a little bit chunky in the jowls, but not too much, at least this time to me. You do get the printing going through the hips down into the legs. That's aligned okay, could be a little bit better, but the leg printing looks pretty good. Would be nice to get some printing around the side for this figure, but overall, I think it's pretty cool. Personal opinion. Your mileage may vary. So they're still using that same MCU Tony Stark head under there. I still find that this version doesn't work as well as like what they did for War Machine. Just going with almost white there. It's that really, really pale color. I don't know. It just looks awkward. I get it. I know what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't work that well to me. And there's the no heads-up display face. They also include a couple of cylinder pieces to show some propulsion. We already saw Nick Fury on the deck of the Helicarrier, but here he is a little closer. I think the prints for the torso, hip and leg pieces look pretty good. The face, yeah, that definitely looks like the MCU variant of Nick Fury. I think it's done pretty well. Too bad they don't print all the way around for the strap. For the eye patch, it's very awkward, very obvious that it needed to go all the way around. That's a bit of a shame, but otherwise, I think the figure is good. Here's a version of Thor, and to me, as someone who's not a Marvel super fan, I look at this and I find it to be not one of the better looking ones. I think the print for the torso there looks pretty good, has some nice detail in it, and I know that's based off a number of versions that have been depicted in multiple media in the past, so I think that's actually done pretty well, but just overall, as a figure, this doesn't strike me as awesome. I don't know. Torso is really good. A little bit difficult to see. Got to get that. There we go. Got to get that metallic print to show up nicely. We do have the softer version of cape here, which is convenient. It does come with a proper Mjolnir, and it does have a good alternate face. Black Widow here gets some built-up batons, which is interesting. I generally appreciate minifig-scaled weapons that are actually built from multiple parts, especially reusable parts, interesting part usage. But I find these to look awkward. Just the thinness of those Harry Potter wands that are kind of embedded in there compared to the thickness of the hollow stud that's used to hold it all together. Yeah, it's just a little bit weird, but that's not that important. What is important is the level of detail in the printing on the figure. We get arm prints here. That is deluxe. Now, this particular arm did not get printed all that well. Just the shoulder part of it is lacking in clarity a bit, but this one is nice and crisp the way that it should be. Got some metallic printing on there as well. Print on the front of the torso, down into the hips, down into the legs, all that looks good to me. And turning it around, the back looks good as well. So overall, I'm very happy with the figure. The weapons, well, take them or leave them. The eyes here look a little bit large and dead, scary. I don't know, it kind of looks possessed. I think that may be another batch issue with the printing, like they just ended up making this one a little bit thicker than it should have been. These eyes are relatively normal, but I don't know. That's really nitpicking, I think. Let me know what you think about that, though. And then finally, man, that's a fair number of figures. Finally, this is one of the Marvel's Avengers game-based AIM agents. So taken directly from the game design and not from any comic design to date, as far as I've seen. It's a new design for the game. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good with all the stuff that's built up. So again, a built-up minifig scaled weapon that is not too huge. Good use of the stud shooter system here with the sight on there and a built-up projectile. They give you an extra one of those projectiles as well. And look, he's got the flight suit. You can move all these bits around, change the angles. That's just good. I think it totally makes sense and is cool. Look, you could use those as extra projectiles if you want to just pull them off. But yeah, it's just all good. And in case you haven't seen one of these yet, they've made a ton of them. They keep putting them in all the sets throughout this year and starting at the end of last year. That's what it looks like underneath. So they're all based on that same head and the same torso for details, which I think is fine. Just kind of getting tired of seeing so many of the same figure. At least the builds and stuff that they add can be pretty cool sometimes. Now here's all the extra stuff, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time leaving this on screen than I usually do because there's some really cool stuff in there. You know, the extra Mohawk piece from Captain Marvel, and these are actually built up and not intended to be spares, but some of the studs, the hollow studs, are extra stud shooter ammo. You know, got an extra one of those prints in there, extra power blast piece and stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff here. And then you have this stack of these modified 1x2 plates. We wondered when the pictures first came out for this set, what are those? Well, now we know. These are throwaway temporary pieces that are applied to the underside of the Helicarrier to keep it in place when you don't want to be activating the mechanism while it's still being built. They're just temporary. You pull them off, and when you're done, then you can just have them. Basically, this is Lego taking another big page from Mega Bloks, now known as Mega Constructs, which has included yellow-colored extra temporary pieces in sets, when appropriate, for years now. It is just sensible. And lastly, here's the spent sticker sheet, so you can see roughly how many stickers are used. And a lot of these were annoying because they're clear-backed. They go against dark-colored plastic, and again, like I said, mine in particular didn't have the cut as deep as it should have been, so some of the adhesive pulled off. Not the first time it's happened to me recently. Very annoying when it does. And now we get to have the talk. The talk about price and value and such. You ready for this? There we go. $120 US for this, for over 1,200 pieces, putting the price to part ratio in the great zone. Because honestly, for that many figures, for 2020, for some large pieces in there, you would not expect a 10-cent price to part ratio. Honestly. That said, the price to volume of stuff ratio is okay. It's not great, but I think it's okay. But the value, I feel, is not quite there. Mostly because There's so much space that you just can't use in this thing. So much of the main thing that you're paying for, the Helicarrier, is not usable. I understand the need to have this big cavern in the back to hold on to the big bad guy. You know, I get that. And that's fine. It's fine enough for play scenarios, capturing him. Although there are probably better ways that could have been done, or more space efficient ways that could have been done. My biggest issue with this set is one of its coolest features, the spinning fans. That all works so well as long as you're careful while you're putting it together. It's smooth, it's hassle-free. You have the cheater wheel on the bottom, so you get good traction as you do this. You can still rotate it around easily. You can just spin it because of those nice round caster-like parts. Where are they? Here's one over here, and then you got a couple over here and stuff. That's all done well. Like, the engineering work is on point, to be sure. But this is a Helicarrier, and all it can carry is a single-seat jet thing, which is okay, except for the nose. I don't like the nose that much. You can also carry 3 minifigures. That's good, but good luck getting them in there. I mean, it's not that bad. And certainly for kids, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it is for me. But still, I don't know. It just feels like it's a little bit more annoying than it ought to be. Plus, I didn't mention that these white pieces that stick out a little bit, modified tiles, they have kind of sharp corners. So if you're putting a figure into the rearmost seat, it's just a little bit annoying. Just can hurt a little bit, or it feels uncomfortable. And I can definitely imagine a lot of people pulling helmets, hair pieces, or even whole heads off figures, trying to get them out, because that's the easiest thing to do, is grab by the head, and then, the legs might stay behind. So, yeah, as far as usable stuff here, it's limited. You got these that you can turn up and down. That's cool. That's fine. This works fine. It's a bit oversized for this, but it does work, and it works pretty nicely. I'm definitely happy with the new projectile launcher, and I look forward to some consolidation in LEGO's projectile launching universe in the future. Honestly, the fans, as well as they work, they stick up quite a bit. You could just imagine all of your figures just getting sucked into these things constantly. There's just no sense of safety there. They're just up so high. You can access this mechanism easily from underneath if you want to fly this along and see the fans going. So that works, but I would have preferred the ability to at least store like one of these with its wings fully folded up in some way down underneath the deck here. Then you can have 2. So one underneath, just have these flap open. You don't even need to do a full elevator system. Elevator would have been cool, but not necessary. Open this up, 2 hatches or something, put it in there. Huge figures, reach in with the hand of God, pull it out, close up the hatch, put another one on top. First one's already launched. Now you launch the second one. That would have been cool. Then you have space for a third one up front, potentially. If this had only included 2, that would have been okay. As long as they had like a poly bag or another set that had another one that was compatible. Kids want their carriers, their capital ships, their buildings, their bases to be able to launch other things. Usually, speaking from experience, I say this. I've seen plenty of others opine similarly. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. And I think it's priced only where they could have priced it. I don't think they could have priced this much lower for the amount of stuff that's actually here. It's just a shame that so much of what you have to pay for is not that useful in the end. So I think as a toy, it's not that successful. As a display model, it's definitely not that successful. I personally think that a large portion of the market would have preferred no working fans embedded down more, the ability to open up stuff, maybe make this faux bridge. A lot of people are going to call it a bridge no matter what. Just come on, there's so much history there. Superstructure section, make it look a little bit more superstructure-y. There are a lot of things I think that could have been done better with the parts budget that was used here. It's just a matter of opinion and choices that were made. Those are my thoughts. Figures, very happy with them. Check out the build if you'd like to. I've got it in real-time form. I've got it in speed build form. Links in the video description and the end screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again very soon.